I'm glad to see everybody on Feygin Live. It is 22:01, Saturday, 7th of May, in both Kiev and Moscow, day 73. Olexiy, glad to see you joining us. Likewise, glad to see you. We have a usual 120,000 people watching us. I actually am sharing some of the parodies people have sent about me. It's a meme now, apparently, and I'm in some viral way making people to subscribe to our channel. That's the latest I've seen. All right, but that's fun stuff aside. Let's go to the main issue at hand. Did anything happen during Saturday? There was a lot of information war, some stories from Russia that they took Popasna, that they killed everybody there and took it. They also threw in the garbage that Azov Steel defenders came out with a white flag. This is a standard procedure. It probably is up the fourth time that we see some of these. By the way, another news, Irina Vereshchuk mentioned that they stopped evacuating civilians from Azov Steel, and with a stress on that stage, meaning that they're still trying to organize new steps. There was a push today on Popasna, a bit less on Slavyansk and Kramatorsk. In Zaporozhye, we paused them and pushed back. On Kryvyi Rog, as they're saying, when they're not doing anything, they're regrouping, and we're polishing them with extra artillery hits and some aviation hits. We did hit Zmyny Island, Snake Island, and we destroyed a small boat that is usually used to transport some equipment. And of course, no, we did not get the frigate, and there is no data when did that information spill come from. I'm suspecting it probably was from the Russian side, just to denounce the news that us and our Western allies are posting. That's why, again, if you see notes that we have won over somebody or sunk something, you got to be very careful and wait for the official confirmation. Do not jump into these things with both feet. Can you explain a little more about how the information troops of Ministry of War in Russia, how they, Ministry of Defense, how they're working? Are there separate detachments or something? Yeah, usually they're a bit separate. Sometimes military detachments can have a small department of like 1 or 2 people, or they also have a bigger service with the main command that actually is more capable of doing strategic operations, and they're pretty vertical structure. They also exist in other services like FSB and Foreign Intel Service, GRU. So they're part of the government structure, and their working budget before war was about $4 billion. Actually, I want to say that specifically for Ukraine in FSB, they had about 10,000 people working on us, 10,000 analysts. So I'm displaying a map that is issued by the Ministry of Defense of the United States. It's in English. There's really not much detail on it, but we want to give it to our viewers so they understand what are we talking about. You know, viewers see that, I don't. Let me send it to you. There's nothing special. It's a very standard map. Check it out. Okay, yeah, I see that now. So those are 3 spots that we are curious about. Kharkiv is on the top left. Whatever is blue, that's the counter activities on the tactical level. Once again, yeah, they're not a counter operation. That's a much smaller scale. Some of our troops did advance there, and they took several villages. We even got a little bit of prisoners of war there. So, in a wide swath, we're going towards Belgorod territory. And in one of the villages, we actually got the administrator who was supportive of the occupants and was working with them. So what is in your legal system? Is it 15 years? Well, yeah, 15 or worse because it's military times. Could be life term. All right. We see Starry Saltov there. Is there a question? Is any part of their group that can get surrounded? By where do you see a full ring there, full circle? There's no risk of that happening. Thing is, we can bring artillery closer and start working on them from the flank. And also they're getting supplies through Valuikas, through Kupiansk, which is still a little too far for our artillery to get. So we can work a little, but... So, two protrusions that we see on the map. Izumsky is a very interesting shape. I see Popasnaya, and yeah, there is a serious fight going around that. Russian propagandists already were a bit too in a hurry to announce that they took it. Ukraine smiled and said it's 17th time they've taken it, or it's the 17th Popasnaya they've taken so far in Ukraine. But the battles are pretty tough there, so we'll see what will happen. Rubezhная, very similar situation. And Severodonetsk is also in a risk zone. So if we try to sum it up by 9th, by the day after tomorrow, the so-called Victory Day in Russia, they have a task of reaching administrative borders of Lugansk and Donetsk regions. Yeah, no, even in Lugansk region, there is no way for them to get that far. Not even an option in Donetsk region. Not even a remote option. All right, nothing to study here. Let's remove the map. There was another piece of information today. It was said that Russia is sending some troops from Syria. Some pretty serious news media confirmed that they're taking those troops and throwing them to some of the battle fronts on the east of Ukraine. Yeah, somebody said 63,000. I was laughing so hard I nearly fell off my chair. In reality, it's more like 6,000. Even if you're super optimistic, it's 11,000 tops. Because as they said, all 63,000 people. That is interesting. It's a quarter of all Russian army in peacetime was in Syria. That's ridiculous. So that's why no, it's 6, maybe 11. Thing is, with Russia withdrawing from there, Israeli can actually start shooting the Iranian side over in Syria, because before that there was some undisclosed agreement that Israeli should not be hitting Russians, so they were reserved. Assad is probably pretty sad now. Turks are also may get interested in Idlib province. And they already had fights. Turks and Russians had direct fights there. Somebody said it was by proxy, but no, there was direct contact of those two countries. And not even a question that Turkish army, in absence of Russian aviation and support, will kick ass of Syria and Iran in that province. Sorry. So the cost of that military adventure is now starting to shine through all of these stupid decisions. Now they have to forfeit the Middle East that they had. They actually stabilized Assad's regime there for a while, almost before he was completely dethroned. And if they leave Syria, I don't see them an option coming back to Syria, because they're really stuck in Ukraine for now. And when if they ever get back to Syria, everything will be change there, the situation will be different. So Assad will likely be just a daytime mayor of Damascus who will not even hold anything remotely close to 75% as he did before the Russian troops left. There'll be different fiefdoms tearing his country apart. So yeah, they're losing a lot of positions that they had there. Also, there are a lot of other kings and dukes in Africa that worked with Russia before. And many of them actually did go before for serious contact with Russia and tried to establish their power by proxy of having Russia involved there, and some of them asked France to leave that and in favor of Russia. But right now, if Russia disappears, who will take its place? And Frenchmen, if they're not too foolish, they might actually go back and take both Mali and Central African Republic.
Ну, про Африку мы не слышали, что они там же ЧВК в основном воюют. Не слышно, ушли.
But they were private fighters, Wagner private fighters in Africa. Oh yeah, they're already in Ukraine. We see a lot of them here with different papers from Libya and other parts in Africa. Oh, you mean like natives of those countries? No. Russian contractors, Wagner, they're like contracted military for hire. And they've been pulled out from Africa to Ukraine. So yeah, once we destroy them here, we often find documents from those regions. Who else can go to Africa? Turks, of course. Americans. In the whole story, I want to say that probably Assad's situation is the worst, because he probably thought that he got the golden card and managed to hold onto his power and survive. And now all of a sudden Russia is basically saying, well, sorry pal, gotta go. And let's say if Israeli government also makes a decision in favor of Israel, they may start some very, very interesting things happening in Syria, because Israel can actually fight Iran by proxy in Syria and weaken their military potential significantly. So these geopolitical changes are pretty tectonic. And why? Because some old senile Gramps wanted to take a piece of his neighbor country. And sadly, a lot of people believed him, and they put their bet on Putin's government, and let's see where they're going. And where those efforts, where those people from Syria, from Africa, oh yeah, they're dying right now in Ukraine. Many of them are dying near Popasny. I'm thinking many countries actually owe Ukraine now for cleansing all that Russian force. I think they actually define their priority. Yes, they sacrifice Syria, they sacrifice Africa, but they cannot sacrifice some other parts.
Но вот представь себе, если бы сейчас, учитывая, что они из Армении, из базы отводили части, говорят, что...
Now that they're moving the troops from the border with Georgia, Abkhazia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus,
в Грузии, соответственно, между Абхазией и Южной Осетией, полыхнуло бы дополнительно где-то в Закавказье, полыхнуло бы в Беларуси.
They would have to respond to issues there before. You cannot leave the territory that are adjacent to your country, where you're basically master and commander of everything in the vicinity. If you look at it this way, if there was any serious pressure or serious military issues in those territories, they could be taking some of the attention of Russia from Ukraine. But right now, this is not happening. Do you think there is a perspective that somebody may stimulate more controversy in those countries to push Russia to withdraw some of the troops from the fight in Ukraine? Well, I don't believe that may happen. The government that is in power in those countries is not the right one. Georgia is not going for it. Sandu, the head of Moldova, is basically fighting for her country. She already stated that they don't have their own standing military, so they have to navigate diplomatically. Azerbaijan, what about them? Russians announced that they found some American-funded labs in Azerbaijan, and Azerbaijan is basically saying, all right, we'll show you what we have, just put your weapons down, let's do it in a peaceful manner. So, these governments, they're not good for such a request of more pressure on Russia. That's why we'll have to deal with the problem ourselves and then perhaps help everybody else around us by the matter of winning. So you think even the fact that Russia pulled out a lot of their troops from those regions, even that will not really affect the map of Russia in those parts of the world? In the faraway perspective, maybe there is such a way, but right now, I don't see it. About 300,000 people watching us. We're 17 minutes live. And again, subscribe to Feygin Live, subscribe to Olexiy Arestovych. You can go follow his channel. And if you're listening to that in English, please subscribe to Privateer Station. Do not forget to leave a like. Each like promotes that video to 10 more people and help us spread this word, help us spread the awareness. So please subscribe. All right, we have a day and a half left to the 9th of May. A day. Okay, a day. Do you think, or is there any information that they're really preparing mass mobilization, or nothing like that exists? Whatever they're preparing, only they understand. This decision is in the head of one or two men. On the other hand, they need to explain it somehow, and how do you explain it? So, why are you doing that? Are you losing? Russian citizens, they're not all like SpongeBobs at the moment and soaking everything in. So they can look at the press of the 24th, 28th of February, where they said that they should take everything in 3 or 4 days. And now what? On day 75, we're announcing mobilization because we cannot overcome Ukraine? We cannot win anything with Ukraine, or are we fighting with NATO? What is going on? How do you explain that mobilization? So this is entirely an internal issue, and that is a problem to define what are you using as an argument. Because if you're saying that the whole world is against us and NATO is fighting against us, you're basically telling, we need to go win NATO? I would say that even the dumbest of the Russian soldiers understands that they have no chances of winning against NATO at the moment. So why are we fighting NATO then? Or something happened and enemy forces are invading Russia, but no, they're not, or at least not yet. So when you put yourself in these shoes, you try to define the reason for mobilization, for the mass draft. My only question, and whenever I hear that, oh, and any media is publishing that, saying there'll be mass conscription in Russia, everybody will be called to war, my only question is, to do what? Because as a president, you need to explain that to people, and you will say that I'm doing this and this in order to achieve this goal, and that's how we'll do it. So, first question there, what are you doing it for? Okay, let's say to win victory over Ukraine. Okay, why are you doing that now? Because you could not take over Ukraine with all the Marines, all the special forces, all the Navy you had, and everybody that you gathered there at the border? Oh, because Ukraine got some support and resisted? But what about you telling us that we'll be met with cheers and it'll be a quick walk in the park for us? We still cannot take Popasna, we still cannot take Mariupol. Why did we lose so many troops? What were the goals? The only thing you took, what, Kherson? And the third of your initial group is gone. It doesn't exist physically. And even with that, in Kherson, there are still civil demonstrations protesting your occupation. All right, so if we're calling everybody to arms, what are we giving them as weapons? All AKs? Because they have nothing else. Another thing I want to say right now, there are actually a lot of conscripts this year. Again, we started seeing their documents here and there, and it's more and more so. So, wondering if the ones that were just taken in to the Russian army in April, will they be quickly trained and thrown in the grinder as well? And a sad piece of news for those who serve in the Russian army, that the Central Command is not signing their release order this year. They're tired, they've done what they had to do, but they're not being let go. So that's a tricky situation for Russian management to explain that on the one hand, they have an open conscription. They're planning to get 150, maybe 130,000 people from this year. And okay, of course, some of them will go to the missile forces, some go to engineering. They may bring about another 50,000 to Ukraine. And even with that, they're looking for more volunteers, more men to take arms. What is going on? What are you losing and what is happening in Ukraine? Why do you need so many people? That would be a very valid question. Several of the tanks divisions to air armies. And if all that is destroyed on the military side from Russia, where are the results? The villages, the cities? That's not a popular story to sell. I actually saw today in the media, I think it was with Skabeyeva's TV show, and one of the guys who was there, he actually did mention that don't be too hopeful, guys. Ukraine actually has more reinforcements and more troops. That sounds like it may have been an informational pressure from Central Command that needs to throw mobilization into the picture in order to even win anything in Ukraine. And that dwarf in Kremlin is thinking about how would he announce that. Well, of course he needs his own goals to be achieved, but he's not ready to call for everybody to join the army, because he's still dragging people from Syria, from Libya, from other parts, Central Africa. You're basically scraping all the reserves to throw in Ukraine. All right, there is such a thing in Ukraine, in military intel, that things that may happen in some reality already did. So when they're pulling out all these people from Syria, basically leaving Assad to dry, where you spent tens of years trying to prop his regime, and these people will not really change the flow of war. Why do you need them if you're going to call everybody to arms? That just does not make sense. You're basically destroying all your unions, all your connections. And then there is a possibility that if you announce mass mobilization, you may get a complete blowback in your own territory in Russia. So next question. They'll be connecting LNR and DLNR to Russia. All right. If they're going to do that, why did they appoint ambassadors to LNR and DNR? Well, that could be that the right hand is not sure what the left one is doing. Could be, but also one of the factors that make you think about things. So, yeah, that all that stuff with Syrian troops being sent over to Russia, that does not look too healthy. I mean, we cannot tell for sure because it's Putin's regime and they can act mad. But personally, I don't believe that too much. I'm also a skeptic. But our prognosis, that doesn't even have to be true. It may not even happen to be true. And if they are watching our shows, they may actually act in reverse, and if we're criticizing them about mass mobilization, they may actually say, all right, well, do you think we'll do it? No, we won't. So we don't know the exact answer. Also, there is one more factor. 9th of May is also a really bad day for doing mass mobilization, because 9th of May is a day of great victory, but when you're fighting for 75 days and calling for global mobilization in your country, that is not a victory. That smells like a loss. I think they're perverts there. You never know what they think. Yeah, I can allow them to be anything, but generally, if you look at it from the logical standpoint, it's not the best day to announce mobilization. Anyway, we got 475,000 people watching us. We'll stay for another 20 minutes. So right now it appears they're talking about immediate answer and possible nuke solutions, and that plane of the doomsday that was supposed to fly over the Red Square on the 9th of May parade. You gotta be real ass to show that plane to people, because basically it's a message saying that, well, that's the plane we all will be flying away on when you will be destroyed by nuclear hits. That's how they send their signals.
Это так они демонстрируют, так они сигнал посылают, понимаешь? У них толстая фантазия-то. Поэтому они вот именно так посылают Запад, что нет, мы там не до конца еще.
They're basically saying that, even if everything is bad, we can still jump on the plane and take off, and we'll be fine. Thing is, I mean, I should not be telling you as a military guy, but plane is a very big target. So there are many points where the plane can be shot from. And the thing with nukes is also that the West is sending a different message now. It is not collective responsibility, but it's going to be a personal responsibility, because what they're actually told him already is that they, in case of conflict, will not destroy the whole Russia, but will target the culprit. So Putin knows that he has a big target on his back. Let me read you something. It's a document from 1967, June. It's the treaty between Russia, Britain, and the United States about treatment of an attack of a non-nuclear country by a nuclear country. Members of that treaty will have to follow the Charter of United Nations and they'll need to continue providing help to the victim until the UN Council adopts a proper roadmap and decides how to proceed. So everyone who is planning to attack a non-nuclear country with nukes needs to realize that they will be confronted by members of this treaty. So this treaty basically unties all the resources with the United States and Great Britain, because right now they do have a contract where they promised to protect a non-nuclear country in case of invasion or attack.
Не, Украина тогда минус, да, это исключается.
So another important question is the answer. The answer will not be on the general, miles of cities, some oil stations and stuff. The answer will be directly on the leader. So yeah, you'll have a doomsday plane for 10 seconds and maybe a doomsday bunker for 10 minutes. I think they're just demonstrating that. They're just bold. I don't think they plan to even use it in case of event. Some people demonstrated that plane about 10 years ago. Did you notice that people, his Russian propagandists who were screaming for a month before about nuclear conflict, and, we can repeat or we'll never surrender. Now you can look at them and notice that they're not keeping their rhetoric together. They probably were given a different picture on it, because they are even starting to filter their discussion rhetoric, trying to strip it off any nuclear memory. I even have some people in Kiev asking me, please tell me, should we leave? I usually ask them, why? What is waiting for us on the May holidays? I'd probably suspect flowers and smiles. No, people close to the office of president told us that there'll be massive nuclear strikes on Kiev in those days. Well, why do you tell them not to go? They can go if they want to. Yeah, I never preclude them from going. I'm just saying that I'm staying, all my relatives are staying, you can go anywhere. So, of course, I am, wink wink, not a person from the president's office, but if you got somebody from there talking to you, you should be paying more attention to that resource. The other thing that President did warn us that there probably might be an intensification of shooting with the usual cruise missiles. And I'm almost in every cast mentioning that if you hear a siren, this is not a joke. Grab your child and go to a shelter. So, the president did mention that on the 9th of May there may be some provocations, and we are hoping we are prepared, but we'll see. Another thing that is sort of gaining momentum in the net, it may be not looking too convincing. It's the Crimea bridge. So they closed it themselves. Nobody's driving on it except the military. So do you think they might attack their own bridge for the video effect? Just imagine for the theoretic answer, if there are two links in a bridge and they just disappeared. I'm not saying the whole thing fell apart, but if just you wake up in the morning, come there, and just imagine it's only two links that go missing. Nobody knows how that happened and who done it. Theoretically, how would that affect the situation on the front? Well, that would mean the stop of any supply routes at the moment for a bunch of the armies on the south, a bunch of the military detachments in the south. For a while, they might continue their existence, meager existence on the items that they have delivered to Crimea already, and then you'll have to reroute a lot of the supplies, and that may actually play a very doom-like role in supplying these troops down south. So they'll have to regroup, figure out new ways, and likely become much weaker and much sadder. The only question is how. Little bumps from drones, couple hits from Bayraktar, none of them can reach it. So there is not an easy way to reach it. Are there theoretically any American troops? Well, yeah, if we had an attack, but we could smash it. But I have to remind you that there are 2 brigades of air defense systems around the bridge, and there are several planes flying around on patrol. They all can shoot the cruise missile or something like that. Yeah, they can. They got enough tools. Problem is to really hit it that accurately, because if you're shooting at this bridge, it's like shooting from a rifle into a thin piece of paper, trying to hit it on the side. Not impossible, but very difficult. And also, we do realize that this bridge was built initially with some capacity to withstand natural disasters or things of that nature. In addition, for the missile to hit the bridge, there are other things protecting it, like steel trusses, other elements that may block and destroy the missile before it hit the main bridge. So what usually kills bridges? That would be aviation, because, yeah, for the most part it's aviation. But I still have to remind you that during the Vietnam War, there is one famous bridge that we've been trying to destroy for almost a year and a half. American pilots are good. They knew their business back in the day, and they were trying. They actually, a lot of them, several dozens, lost their lives. This bridge was a big issue. Some people parasite on this subject, asking question, why is this bridge not blown up? Oh, people like to parasitize different matters. Before, at the beginning of war, it was the unity, national unity, and it was a different situation. Right now, we are in the nobody gives an F part of town, and everybody is fighting for their own. Perhaps it's the full moon or some other things affect people. There is also political fight going on, so many things are being looked at as the electoral prospects. So the opponents are trying to run around and throw, let's say, mud at each other. That somebody took the mines out of Chingar, that gave up Mariupol, that we could not destroy Crimea Bridge, etc., 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 until you ask them a question, what with? And then they fall silent, and then their best recourse is, well, your power, you gotta figure it out. My best answer is go and invent it yourself, then bring it to us and we'll consider, because we've tried everything we can think of. People fight about different things. One of our ex-ministers of defense was sent to Slovenia as an ambassador, so some people are gloating that he'll be sunbathing. And, you know, I want to look back to the times when we actually sold one of the biggest military groups in Europe to Africa back in the day, and now that's the reason we don't have enough munitions now. But as for that guy going to Slovenia, I do know that his qualities. He's an amazing negotiator, and he was given certain things to negotiate, so we sincerely hope he'll achieve the results that are set in front of him. But, you know, for those who are not privy to anything, they just keep screaming that everything is horrible, and we already have 74 criminal cases against stealing or repurposing humanitarian aid Oh, so the process is going. Yeah, the process is going. From the beginning it was.
Там другая совершенно посыл был. Он был такой, что это вот вы
Well,
собираетесь там в офисе
the other stories I
президента,
heard and the accusations were more like you in the office of the president are gathering together and basically devouring everything that comes. Of course, yeah, there are people like that too. I am also very delighted in the way that they try to further and strengthen relations between Ukraine and the American side. And frankly, right now we are at about 12 hours a day conversing on different subjects. And they also try to discredit Yermak because he's not apparently picking up the phone to talk to everybody, and he's literally not having enough time to sleep. In the meantime, and yeah, their position is that nobody knows how to save our foreign partners from contacting the spies in our country, but those people online, they always know how to encompass the protection by kind of combined with all the American actors and congressmen and politicians who are looking to contact Ukraine. So they figured, I guess, some magical way how to not let them talk to potentially corrupt individuals. There is an interesting aspect to Ukraine that every time there is a full moon or something like that, there is a whole subset of conspiracy theories popping up, and they're figuring out how things actually work. So Ukraine, if anything, is back to its own archetypes, and whatever we're doing or discussing now, we should be agreeing upon under consideration that there are many things unknown. And you and me are actually entering the new phase, by the way. I think we will have to dig through a lot of these stories that are not entirely true. And like in a good example, yesterday was that frigate in the Black Sea, Admiral Makarov, that turned out to be not true. And instead of discussing the actual fighting, very often we might just deteriorate into discussing the fakes that permeate Russian media and Russian minds, Russian information. And I do have to say that, of course, dispelling fakes is awesome. This is a great line to have. And it does affect the military victory of Ukraine over Russia. All right. We've been live for 43 minutes. 455,000 people watching us. And please do not forget to subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych, and to the Privateer Station if you are watching that in English. Please leave a like. This is extremely important to promote your channel further out by the YouTube algorithms. And you can subscribe to Alexei's channel and to Mark Feygin's. There's more interesting stuff there. Tomorrow at 10 p.m., right? By the way, tomorrow J7 is seating to talk, and President Zelensky is going to be participating. Oh yeah, that's an interesting event. Thank you, Olexiy, and we'll be waiting for you tomorrow impatiently.
Всем пока.